Well, good morning and welcome to the Mayor's Weekly. Pleased to be back with you. Been away for a few weeks, a couple of weeks. Our producer had to be away. Last week I had to be away, so it feels good to be back and talking with you about things that are going on in our city. Today, Kathy Chambless, our city clerk, chief financial officer, is joining me, and what we want to spend this morning doing is talking about the city's budget for fiscal year 2022. I'm sure all of you are aware governmental bodies operate on a fiscal year, and that's from the first day of October to the last day of September. So fiscal year 2021 ended, I think, 7 days ago, and earlier in this week our council approved a budget that will guide us in fiscal year 2022, and budgeting is always a challenge. You have to make your best call on things, but Kathy's long tenure and experience with this city has certainly proved beneficial to a very valuable budgeting process. Kathy, pleased about this budget. I think we know this is the largest budget that's ever been presented for the city of Jasper, and if you don't mind, maybe a few highlights of the 2022 budget.
Well, for sure. I'd like to start out our discussion, Mayor, with how well we ended September 30th of this year, 2021. And of course, we haven't closed the books on it yet. And really want to talk about how well the revenue growth from this past year, which is going to affect our budget for 2022.
Right.
But we saw an increase in revenue of about $2.4 million, which is just an incredible revenue growth. And about 2.2 of that 2.4 million was a result of the growth in sales tax, which is extremely important to us. 60% of our total revenue is a result of sales tax revenue. Tells you our economy in Jasper is really rolling, and just hope that we continue to see that in 2022. So we did use $29 million to set our revenue budget for 2022, and realizing all during the year we monitor that and we can move that up or move that down, and thank goodness we have enough reserves and fund balance to handle any type of an adjustment that we might need to make. But the 2022 budget, the council and yourself was able to provide to our city employees a 1.5% pay increase, really absorbed a fairly big increase in health insurance this year, absorbed almost all of that health insurance increase, and did provide the city employees who were in a Tier 2 category, were able to give them the Tier 1 benefits, and that was a pretty significant increase to the city. Also in the 2022 budget, the Jasper City Council has provided for $1 million to be used towards park improvements. And we don't know what shape that's going to take yet. But they did go ahead and provide $1 million for park improvements. We felt like we also needed to provide $500,000 to improve equipment and facilities as we see the needs come up during the year for those. And Mayor, there was a time when those type fundings would not have been available. So
An extended time, what I know about
and
this.
you remember it because
Right.
it was early on in
Yeah.
2016. So it's so great to see that from the general fund, we can provide $1.5 million towards improving facilities or buying equipment and not have to go out and borrow funding for that. So I think that is a fantastic thing that we're beginning to be able to do, is provide that type funding from general fund revenues. We even with providing a 1.5 for those type expenses, we still believe we will end the year around $2 million. And as we know, that's very difficult to predict. But I do think we've got a good, strong, solid budget. Revenue has really been able to provide the ability to make some significant improvements in the city.
Well, Kathy, we talk often about what the two of us read and hear in the national news, reading financial news, and the questions about where the economy is going in 2022 continues to mount. And in my previous life, I've been through downturns, and your work here with the city, you've been through downturns, and they can be brutal.
They sure can.
And I spoke to a group yesterday, and I talked a little bit about this. But where we're at from a reserve status, while we won't be flippant or cavalier about it, we'll work diligently every day to run this city the best we can run it. But if a economic storm were to come, we're prepared to weather it, aren't we?
We certainly are. Certainly got ourselves into a financial condition that is very strong and can weather a downturn in sales tax.
Kathy, we talk about the growth in sales tax revenues, and clearly the economy has been good. I think at the national level the economy has been good. I think ours has been extraordinarily good, and it's my belief that that we have been able to build our own economy here in Jasper. Certainly we're impacted by the national economy, but when you look at, I was telling the group yesterday, what we've seen what I call organic growth, and that is the folks that are already here have been able to grow their business. And you track sales tax revenue. I mean, you have a chart that says business A generated this, B, C, so you know exactly what's going on. So I think there's data there that supports what I'm saying.
There certainly is. I do monitor the top 150 businesses every month, and those 150 businesses represent about 90% of the total sales tax revenue that comes in. So you have a good idea of how the whole spectrum of businesses are doing, but we saw good growth throughout. Retail sales, home improvements, food, car sales, all had very nice revenue growth, which was great to see.
Well, it really is, and as we look at retail, just at our council meeting, the leadership of a new business, food service business that will open here later in the month from out of town. You probably saw reported in the Daily Mountain Eagle that Dunham's will open probably the latter part of this month, early November, 50,000 square feet of retail space there. We know that there's several other retail entities that are looking closely at Jasper, and we think all those will become a reality. We have industrial prospects. Those take a lot of time to bring together, but that's encouraging. And another thing, it was pleased, Kathy and I talked about this, that those that work at what we know as the Shoal Creek mine have returned or about to return to work, and that's those are very good paying jobs, and certainly that will generate cash. It will flow into the cash registers of merchants in the city. So all of those things look very favorable for the city in 2022. Kathy, another thing that we talked about is what we've been able to do is we go to our street department, equip our people in a way that they can do the work that they have to do. And somebody made the observation the other day that they felt like that we were getting, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, we're getting more benefit from our people, and I believe that's correct. I talk to people, I get a sense, morale will never be perfect, but I think morale is reasonably good. I see our people working, and certainly they're equipped to do the things that need to be done, and really no longer are we forced to farm anything out. We can do it in-house if it makes sense to do it in-house.
Right, and that lowers your expense in a lot of cases.
Now, I think it certainly in order, and to a few comments about expense management, Kathy, and that you look at what happened in 2021 versus 2020 and whatever. Any comments about that? But I think we've seen a little uptick, but let's face it, Jasper's growing. The census indicated it is growing, but it's probably growing more than that would indicate. As we bring on more projects, if we add a park or we expand things, we do new sidewalks, which we've done just west of here. That brings about additional maintenance that we have to do, whether another person moves to town or not. So I think our expense management's been pretty good. Your thoughts on that, Kathy?
Well, it has. It just costs more now. Our fuel costs more.
Right.
Everything we're purchasing, just like your family's going and buying groceries, everything's more expensive. But Mayor, we still always look for ways of doing things differently that will still produce the results we need, but will cost less. And an example of that in this particular year was combining our meal program with our senior center facilities.
Right.
And so there's savings when you are able to do that. And you may not be able to do it often, but when you can, you take advantages of those type of opportunities. This year we did a telephone audit. It looked at every cell phone we had in the hands of every employee, and then just looked at who we use for our telephone service. And in doing that, we were able to save over $30,000 for the city. So you just try to find opportunities to.
And Kathy, an area where we have seen vast improvement, and the numbers in front of you, is workers' comp.
Workers' comp, big savings in workers' comp. And you just have to keep talking safety to your employees and try to make sure they're equipped with equipment they need to work safely.
Well, just a few years ago on workers' comp, our experience rating was so poor, bad, whatever you want to call it, that we were about to be forced into a special pool to continue to have coverage. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And today, and that's brought about by our people buying into what we're doing. I think that's a testament that morale is good. And you're always, when you have 200 employees doing the things that some of our employees do, you're going to have some workers' comp claims. But that experience rating based on our insurance agent, insurance carrier, indicates that the city's doing a pretty good job.
We really are, and that is our employees have really worked with us to make that happen.
Right. So we dive into fiscal year 2022 with a great deal of optimism, understanding that none of us know what's coming our way, but thankful that we're prepared to weather a storm if such were to come. But let's hope that doesn't happen. Let's hope we can continue to notch it up for the city. We have several things that are under consideration. Don't know if they'll become a reality, but will be very material for this city, and we're excited about that. As I always say, welcome your questions, your input. And if you send them our way, we'll certainly get you an answer or address whatever concerns you may have. So good to be back with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.